Folks, I think some of you have been here for multiple talks today, so we've got another one here. Our next speaker here is Kathy Grams from We Move Your Mom, and topic is, so you've decided a move is necessary, now what? Helpful tips, tricks, and checklists. And Kathy is a professional senior move manager and real estate agent. After helping her own mother navigate the transition of her home life, she saw a need and felt a profound commitment to helping other seniors as if they were her own family. So, as usual, format here, about 20 minutes-ish, and then about 5 minutes, a little bit longer of Q&A, but you can change that up as much as you like. And if you just if any questions come up, please repeat the questions so we can get them recorded for the video.
Okay,
great.
Sounds
Thank
good.
You.
Hey everybody, it's been a long day. Hopefully you're all refreshed and want to hear about moving. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks about moving, but before we do, I want to back up for just a minute because moving is easy, right? We all have moved at some point in our lives. We've all packed. How hard is this? The logistics of this are not that hard, but I want to tell you a little story. Can you just bear with me for 2 minutes? I want to tell you a little story about Chuck and Thelma Kuhn. They moved from California to Broomfield in 1972, and they raised their family of 3 kids in a house very similar to this one. They celebrated Christmases, and they celebrated birthdays. They even mourned the loss of their grandson at an untimely point. This was their home. This wasn't just a place they lived. They lived here for 50 years. I want to talk about moving, that it's an emotional event. It's something to recognize. It's emotional. We're going to get into the tips and tricks. That's the easy part. I'm going to give you kind of a 5-step process. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody that moving is one of the top 5 stressful things that you will do in your life. It's up there with losing a loved one. It's up there with divorce. So just don't take it lightly. This is something that is emotional. I see the formatting has gotten really interesting. Sorry about that. So just remember that. The steps that I want to go through are pretty basic. It's going to be planning and sorting. It's going to be packing, and I'm going to give you more detail on each of these things. It's going to be actually the physical move, hiring somebody or doing it yourself, settling, and dispersing items that you don't need anymore. But at the center of this, it's checking in with yourself. If you're helping someone else move, it's checking in with them because moving is emotional. It is emotional. Even if you're young or old, it's emotional. You're giving up a home and you're moving to a new home. So let's talk about the first one, which is planning and sorting. When you start to decide a move is needed, the first thing you got to do is think about what's happening with the stuff that you currently have. Is it moving with you? The best thing to do is look at where are you moving to? What kind of space are you going to have? Do you have the things that you need for that new space? Maybe you need a new desk because the old one you have is too large. Maybe you want a different couch. So start with a space plan, thinking about where it is that you're going to be going, what it needs to look like. Then you start looking at what you have and saying, okay, out of those things that I need, what do I have that can go with me? Now you have to start thinking about the things that you don't want to move. And we have something that we call the 1-year rule. If you haven't used it in a year, if it's sat in a closet, if it has been at the back of your kitchen cabinet, if it has been in storage, there's a good chance you don't need it. And can you work through that emotional process to follow the 1-year rule and get rid of that thing that you haven't used in a year? Is it in the back of your closet? Is it in storage? A whole year has passed and you haven't used it. Another thing that we say is keep memories, not clutter. And that's hard when you say, this reminds me of something, or my mother gave this to me. But this isn't your mother. It is a memory. And so how can you keep a memory, not clutter? Some of the things we suggest are put photos on a digital frame, as an example. Another thing is maybe you have a set of dishes, but you really only need servings for 2, and it's less clutter. You're only serving 2 people. Keep the 2 settings of dishes, not the whole set of 12. Also, when it comes to planning and sorting, It's maybe something you're going to do before you're even ready to move. You might have a lot of stuff right now, and you're thinking, I don't need so much stuff. Start with something easy, something like a spice cabinet. You can go through all the spices and say, do I really need all these spices? Alphabetize them, sort them, and organize them, even before you're ready to move. You can start with something easy like a spice cabinet. Now we get to the harder stuff, which is packing. Everyone says, I've done packing, it's easy. How hard is it? Some tricks to think about when you're packing is, a lot of people go and get the spare liquor boxes or whatever from the liquor store or from leftover restaurants that don't have lids that close. I would recommend that you invest in sturdy boxes. There's even moving companies that have, it's a company called Denver Moving Boxes. They have big plastic reusable boxes. They stack really well. They'll bring them to your home. You can load them up, and then you can move, and then you can have them pick up the boxes when they're done. So that's something that you use a box that you don't have to pay for, but you're basically paying for the rental. A typical rental period is about 1 week. But however you do boxes, invest in some sturdy ones. If you have professional movers that you hire for the actual moving side of things, those little liquor boxes and stuff, they're going to get crushed. The things you have in there are going to get crushed. Some things also, a trick is set a timer. It's overwhelming at first. You might feel like you have weeks. Set a timer, pack for an hour. Make yourself do that maybe twice a day. It helps you kind of break the projects up. We also have given each room a different color tape or a different color sticker. So the kitchen might be red, the bedroom might be blue. So then when the boxes get moved, you know that's a blue box, it goes in my bedroom. It's just really quickly to identify. Another thing is, don't leave empty space in boxes, because when you stack them, that empty space is going to get crushed. And something that you have in there may get squished. So don't leave empty space in boxes. Fill it in with papers, fill it in with towels or sheets. Don't leave that empty space in the box. And something I didn't put on here, but I think it's important to think about too, is use the right size box. You don't want to use a box this tall for books. Even a professional mover is going to have a hard time picking up a box that full of books. So it's good to put books in with other things or put books in smaller boxes. And then the last thing I really want to talk about when we talk about packing is, you probably have some things that are really important, like maybe medications. We moved a client who had her father's, he received an award. He was a principal, and he received an award. That thing was more precious to her than anything. Hand carry that kind of stuff. It's irreplaceable. We say pack critical items in an essential tote that you keep with you. Those don't go to a mover. It's things like medications or something that's very, very important to you. Now, when it comes to the actual move itself, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I hire that out. I would recommend that. Notice my last bullet, transfer the risk, hire a professional mover. We'll talk about ways you can think about how to hire a professional mover, what are some of the tips and tricks. But if you choose to move things yourself, first items in are the last items off. So think about that. If you're wanting to fill a hutch, let's say a China hutch, and you put that at the back of the moving van, it's not coming off until the very end. So you're not going to see that until you've gotten everything else off. Heavy items always get packed on the bottom, light on top. You don't want to put that box of books on top of your china. It's easy to say, but if you do hire professional movers, you want to make sure they don't do that and that they know not to do that. A lot of people, too, will leave their lamp shades on their lamps. That's a great way to get them destroyed. Remove lamp shades from your lamps. Remove the light bulbs from your lamps. Pack those lamp shades and those light bulbs in a box. The lamps themselves will get wrapped in shrink wrap because it keeps everything together. But don't leave the lamp shades on the lamps. That's a guaranteed way to get them ruined. And everyone's heard this, lift using your legs and not your back. Another thing that I think people tend to underplay is settling. Once you get to your new place, how do you get settled? That is the most important part. This is your new home. How do you make it feel like home? I think I try to tell people, think about less is more. You might have all this stuff from your house, but what is it that actually makes you happy? What is it that makes you most comfortable? Usually it's a bed, it's a couch, it's a blanket. Think about that. Keep the walkways clear, because if you block every doorway, you suddenly feel overwhelmed. It's very hard to get settled as you're moving in and getting settled. We've had some clients, for example, that they weren't sure they wanted to stay where they moved to, so they didn't want to unpack. They unpacked maybe 10 boxes. They left everything else packed because they keep having in mind that they're going to move. What do you think happened? By the way, it's a year later. I'll tell you the story now. They haven't moved. But how do you think they feel in that year? They feel unsettled. They feel like they are not in a home. And if you lose even 1 year of your life where you don't feel like you're home, that's where you're safest. You need to make your home feel like your home. So wherever you're moving to, I'd say plan this settle phase. It's so important. This is where you're safe. Make it home even if you're going to move again. It's worth the time. And don't live with these unpacked boxes that I'm referencing. The other thing that I've heard a lot, especially in kind of the group that we've been talking with today, is dispersing. You might have things that you don't want to keep, that you don't want to have so much stuff. I call it downsizing. So what do you do with all that stuff? What do you do? So I have some handouts I can give to you, but we try to keep things out of the landfill. We try to keep things into donation, into selling. There's multiple ways to sell. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail today on selling, but I'll just tell you some of the primary ways are online, garage sales, and estate sales. Estate sales can be in person or they can be virtual. The kinds that we do are mainly virtual, where we actually post everything online. We manage an auction over 7 to 10 days, and then people come in and they buy the stuff and we disperse it to them and they empty out the homes. It's much better to hire somebody or have somebody pay you to take your stuff versus you hire junk collectors to come and take it. You'll pay for them to take it away versus somebody paying you to come take stuff away. So online sales are something that I'd recommend looking into. A lot of people, too, want to donate. They think about giving it to their kids, their family. Like my mother, she would be like, that's going to be yours one day. What happens when I don't want it? I don't want it, Mom. I think a lot of folks are running into that. Their kids maybe don't want it, and now what do they do with it? Is it worth something? Can it be sold? Another little quick story. We had a gentleman we were working with. He had a prized guitar collection, and he always intended to give it to his daughter. And so when we were getting ready to move him, he's like, I'm giving this guitar collection to my daughter. And we talked to her, and she went, I really don't want that. And he was stuck. He was really hurt. But what she said is, Dad, I want the antique mandolin. And he's like, what mandolin? She's like, that one. Remember, it's in the closet. They dug it out. It's this mandolin he all but forgot about. He hadn't played with it in 20 years. She wanted that. That's what reminded her of her dad. So she took the mandolin, and we sold the guitar collection, and he was very happy with the price. Both father and daughter were happy. It was an emotional transition to get there, but that helped them come to resolution. There's also other tools that everyone's heard of Goodwill and ARC and the VA, but there's other things that you may not have heard of, like, has anybody heard of EFA? Emergency Family Association or Assistance Association. What's important, EFA's here in Boulder. What's really great, they're a great resource. They will take items that are opened. So let's say you have cleaning products that are opened. They will take those items off your hands. They will give them to families that need them. They will also take food, pantry items. They'll take items that have been expired within the last year. They'll take those types of items. They'll take a lot of medical donate type items, diapers and wipes and that kind of thing. So we work really hard to find partners that will help take items that still have useful life in them and keep them out of the landfill. I mentioned the check-in. I just want to say that, I can't say that enough. Check in with yourself. This is an emotional thing. If you're helping somebody else, check in. It is emotional. Everyone gets overwhelmed by this process. They absolutely get stuck. I told you I'd give you a few tips for hiring a professional. So if you are looking for a professional to help you, most people want somebody to help with that physical move part. But no matter who you're looking for a professional, ask family and friends. The best way to get good resources is to get referrals. Talk to people that have hired somebody before. Get what their experience is. Once you have that, or even if you don't have that and you find somebody else, be upfront with the person who comes and does an estimation. Be upfront with the work you want them to do. Do you want them to move the living room? Do you want them to move the whole house? Sometimes people will say, I only want to do a few things. Then a misunderstanding happens because movers will come in and be like, okay, we're only doing these 15 things. And then somebody's like, but I really want that and that. And the price goes up. It's important, too, to meet your estimator in person. A lot of moving companies will talk to you over the phone. They'll ask you how many bedrooms you have. They'll give you a price over the phone. That price may or may not be good. They'll say it's an estimate, not guaranteed. Based on what you've told me, this is the estimate, and the price will change. It's better to find a company that will give you an estimate in person. Meet them. See who you're hiring, and ask for a written estimate, not a verbal one, where you actually can understand what you're getting and meet the person who you're hiring. Inquire about added fees. Most companies will add fees on for distance, the size truck that they need to use. If they are using a small truck versus a large truck, they'll add on fuel charges. These things are not uncustomary, but you want to know. You want to know exactly what you're paying for and what those added fees might be. And then another component is ask for insurance. Do they have insurance? What happens if they drop your couch down the stairs? What happens to your couch? What happens to the walls? What happens to the person who might have been at the other side of the couch? Those are all things to think about. Or what if something's in their moving truck and something happens? And you want to understand, how do they handle those situations? What are their insurance options? Those are really the main things I want to talk about. As I said, this isn't rocket science, but I wanted to open up for questions that folks might have.
Yeah, as far as insurance, do you ask a company to send you a certificate of insurance?
I would recommend it. Yeah, I would recommend it. It would be safest to do that. You can use your own judgment if you feel like you have a good rapport. And I'll just tell you, in my business, we don't get asked for certificates of insurance that often. It's rare. But I wouldn't hesitate if I was asked for it to send it. Good question. Any others? Is there something you wanted to hear that you didn't hear? Is there something you wanted to know that you didn't get to hear and you might have a question about it?
I have a question. What does it cost to move a house?
That is a huge question. I'll just tell you, everybody's house is different and what people want is different. So let me give you a few different scenarios why you might see such a variance. Somebody who's lived in a house for 20 or 30 or 40 years and filled every closet and had it chock-a-block and may decide that they want to pack themselves. They may pack themselves. And if all you're doing is moving, like picking up the boxes out of the house and moving them, it's not that bad. You pick it up, you're moving that stuff. Again, it depends on volume. It's priced, like in that physical moving part of things, it's priced by number of hours it takes. Okay? And then the size truck it takes, and then there might be fuel surcharges, et cetera. If you're actually packing somebody and taking things out of the closet and you're just packing it all, that's a different price. It's usually based on hours it takes. Like what we would do is we might take that stuff down and help sort it and say, okay, this stuff's going to get auctioned. That would be a whole nother level of effort, but that auction cost comes back after it's sold. So that auction cost comes back to you. I will give you some examples. We have done multiple projects. We've done projects that paid for themselves, where the person, all of our fees were 100% covered, and the auction paid them additional fees. So they got to move out of their house, they got all their stuff dispersed, and they moved to their new location, they got their beds made, their pictures on the wall, and it paid for itself. They then got a check for some amount. We've also had projects where it didn't do that. The auction didn't pay for itself. We've had to coach clients too, and think about this if you're hiring other companies. They may say, I want to sell everything. Well, it takes time to document everything, and it may not sell. So you want somebody who's going to consult with you and say, you don't want to pay to have this documented for it to sell for $2, because it's going to just take too much time, and the return isn't there. So those are some things to think about. I know I didn't give you an actual dollar figure, but it's based on time and effort.
Based on time and effort and distance, I assume.
Yeah, and multiple drop-offs would be another thing where maybe, some people might say, I want to take this stuff to donate. I have a couch. Well, you can't take that to donate yourself necessarily unless you have a truck. I want this stuff to go to donate, and I want this stuff to go to my new place. Well, that's 2 stops, so they might add an additional charge on for that type of thing.
Do those facilities like Oreg and those places, do they pick up?
Not furniture.
Not furniture?
Yeah, they don't pick up furniture. That's been my experience. Does anybody have a different experience?
I think Salvation Army will pick it up if it's in decent condition.
Okay. It's been my experience that they don't take furniture. So if the Salvation Army does, by all means, give them a call and see if you can get them to take it. Other things that are not legal to sell, for example, are mattresses. People get really stuck thinking about a mattress. You can't sell a mattress in Colorado. You could sell a bed, and you can say, I'm giving you the mattress too, if you want it. But a lot of times people pay, I just talked to somebody who paid $300 to have a mattress taken away. So you want to price that out. Mattresses, try to give them away to family or friends or neighbors if somebody wants it. That's something you should plan to give away if you don't want it anymore. Otherwise, you're probably going to be paying for it to be taken away. Sorry, just a...
If you have a child still living at home and you decide to move, it's going to give you the opportunity to split the child apart. Is that 2 moves to you guys or 2 drop-offs?
It's still just one project. It's one project. For our specific company, and I have some handouts that are not about my company. It's about moving like a pro and hazardous materials and letting go of items. But if you're interested in things about my company, I'm happy to give you my business card and you can get a free estimate. But we would treat that as one project.
One other question, do you move overseas?
We have not moved overseas, although we do have some clients who have moved overseas, and we have some resources we could tap people into.
Do you work with any retirement communities that they recommend you?
Yes. That's primarily how we get our business, frankly. We work really hard to partner with the retirement communities and make sure that we understand those retirement communities and what their models are, and to help our clients transition to them. Yeah, that's really important to us. We actually really work to understand the community too, because it helps our clients say, okay, this is a 2-bedroom unit, or it's a 2-bedroom with a den. We know those floor plans, and we can help. We know the communities too. We can help our clients get familiar with those communities.
Physical auctions, or is it all online?
We have done all online. If there was a need to do a physical auction, we would. So we're not opposed to it. We just haven't had a need. Everything has fit online to us. And I think with COVID, that has proven to be really beneficial to our clients too.
So you come in and take pictures and write descriptions?
Yeah, we call that cataloging. We'll come in and catalog everything. Pictures, we take care of the online stuff. We take care of the pickups, the payments, everything.
What percentage do you get on the sale?
Our particular model, we don't actually price our fees that way with a percentage. We charge a fee where we come in and we give an estimate and we say, for us to do this work, it's going to cost X. The proceeds go to you. So we ask for some percentage up front as a deposit. What we will do is we'll say, as the auction pays out, if you want us to take our payment out of the auction, we will, and we'll pay the difference to you, or you can pay us separately from the auction and we'll give all the proceeds of the auction to you.
So I know you were at the Balfour sessions. I should have asked, but are those units that they rent to you, are they furnished, or do you have to bring your own furniture?
The Balfour units are not furnished. I don't know of any.
You have to bring all your own stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just if you saw me in the Balfour unit earlier, I just want to just comment for a minute. My mother was a resident at Lavender Farms in Balfour, and I was on the Balfour panel. It's that experience with my mom, why we started We Move Your Mom. I worked in a big corporate job for 25 years, and I wished I could hire somebody like me for my mom. I wanted somebody to move my mom like I would move my mom. So that's really an important thing. And I'm sorry, this isn't meant to be a business spiel, but you're asking a couple questions. That is the premise of what we do. Any other questions? Yeah. Yep.
Do you do staging when you go into like Apple or Fraser or any of those places? Do you kind of help them?
Space planning, we call that space planning. So, yeah, and you should look for companies that do this. But we'll go through and say, we'll help with the whole plan. You know, like you're moving into a one-bedroom studio or, you know, one or the other. What do you have? Where will it fit? We'll take measurements of your furniture. We'll make recommendations. We'll tell you, have you thought about a table? You know, have you thought about, what do you like to do? You love to do beading? Where are you going to do your beading work? Do you have some place to do that here? So we really try to make sure that we get to know our clients and what they need. Thank you guys for not giving me questions I had no idea how to answer. All right, guys. Thank you.